As Nigerians usher in the 2024, the country reflects on an eventful year fraught with significant economic hurdles, including the repercussions of the naira redesign and a contentious presidential election that saw President Bola Tinubu ascend to power. Now, despite the elimination of fuel subsidies triggering a mass exodus now termed japa, the nation celebrated remarkable achievements like Victor Osimhen bagging the African Football of the Year award and Tiwa Savage's sterling performance at a coronation concert in London. Nigerians are looking forward to 2024 with optimism, banking on the economic growth and prosperity through reforms and policy changes that offer new opportunities. Efforts to clear forex mature obligations, remove policy impediments to forex inflows, and boost crude oil output are expected to positively impact the economic outlook. So this is what we'll be focusing on this morning on the program, and we have Professor Abdullahi Bashir. He's a public affairs analyst and also Dean Faculty of Communications from the University of Abuja. He'll be joined also virtually, or I would say via phone, by Dr. Agoso Bamei, a development strategist and social entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining us on the news on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you and to all your viewers.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Dr. Agoso, if you're there, good morning. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So let's start off with the maybe a brief review of last year, the year 2023, and how, we got here, in the first place. Prof, let me start with you.
Well, the year 2023 is one of the toughest, if not the most toughest years after 1999. That era, someone who is born in that period to now, he might say this is the toughest year. The year was ushered in with the CBN currency policy, which was very challenging, and there was the cloud of the election hanging. Primaries were very challenging, and amidst this, there are insecurity. The economy was still performing very poorly, and a lot of things, happened, negatively, so to say, although there are a few positives. So 2023 actually was a very tough year, and when the new government came, amidst all these, subsidy was abruptly removed, and the forex policy was also changed, and there was a lot of shock. Despite this, also the insecurity did not also slow down. There were a lot of pockets of crisis, and also there were some judicial decisions that seem popular and unpopular to some people, which generate a lot of tension. And we also saw toward the end of the year the effort to boost local refining. We are hearing news about improvements in refining capacity, which we hope in 2024 we are going to reap some benefits. But apart from that, actually 2023 is a very tough year, just that Nigerians are resilient, and we are still surviving.
Resilient and surviving that. Yeah. Dr. Bamei, let me hear from you on this matter. Now, talking about what the professors mentioned about the refinery, we saw the president this morning did the broadcast wishing Nigeria a Happy New Year. And one of the things that he made mention of is the refineries, that they're still working on it, a work in progress, and hoping 2024 would bring, the completion of at least 2 to 3 of it. But then there has been that talk where even the GCO of NNPCL came out to say the refineries wouldn't really, change the prices of the fuel price in Nigeria. So why do you think Nigerians should be happy, should have a very good and open mind when it comes to, getting at least price at a very affordable rate?
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to Nigerians.
Happy New Year.
Now, speaking about local refining, the prices, as the leader of the NNPC said, are not really going to change even when we refine it here locally. Given the fact that the Dangote refinery that so much hype was done about and a lot was said about, it's from what we're hearing, it's located in an export zone, and the truth is that it's going to sell refined products to Nigeria at international rate. So the only thing is that it will be available, and then the cost of transportation and all that will be taken off. So the prices will come down a little bit, not that much. However, I think it's a preferred situation to the one we have currently, where everything we use as far as fuel is concerned is brought in. Because we have to mention that it's an indictment on our capacity as a people to do what is proper. We produce a lot of crude oil, and yet we export it and then import refined products. We have refineries here that are not functioning. So even for the sake of our image as a people, we need to get one or two of those refineries functioning, and then making petroleum products easily available to the people. It will go a long way in reducing the difficulties that we face as a country in terms of transportation. And you know, the cost of transportation is transferred onto the ordinary people, the business people, when they move goods from one part of the country at high cost, they reflect that cost on the prices of their goods, and it is the ordinary people that eventually suffer.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Whereas it's not going to solve our problems completely, it's going to be a good thing if it eventually happens.
Okay. All right, Prof. From the president's speech, very boldly here on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper is the lead story that is taking excerpts from the president's speech, where he said, telling Nigerians that I am aware of your frustrations. He said from Kano to Lagos to the south, he is fully abreast with the frustrations of Nigerians, and that every step he has taken, every policy he has taken since he came in is in the interest of Nigerians and is for the betterment of the economy. Does the president's speech gives you that assurance when you listen and you tie that to what's on ground?
Well, being aware is one thing, but doing the right thing to alleviate this frustration is another. Yes, he is aware, it's okay, but what the ordinary people are interested is in results. So that even if you are aware, but the results do not seem to, show, then the awareness might be of little value. So we are more interested in actions or plans which the president have, and how those plans or action can mitigate this suffering, or if it cannot eliminate it. So this is the most important thing.
Would it be rash for anyone to expect anything to be better at this point in time, given that it's just how many months, of the coming of the current administration? Would it be too rash? The president said that all they have been doing so far is laying the grounds for a system that will accommodate, investments and so on. All the travels he has traveled is to woo investors into the country and so on, and certain policies, framework have been put in place. He talks about, how he came up with a policy that would checkmate the performance of his ministers and so on. So these are all preparatory, efforts and steps that has been taken by the current administration. So if Nigerians are this frustrated, do we have the patience and to wait for real results to begin to manifest? And will it be too rash to expect anything at this point?
Rationally, what we're experiencing as a country it's not something that you can just change it within 6 months or 3 months, which this administration is just some few months naturally, because some of the damages have been far, so deep that you need to restart a lot of things. Quite understandable. But there are indicators of, yes, if you have in 2 years, these indicators will show us that, yes, in 2 years, our patience, will be justified. or there is at least we have waited and there is justification for the suffering we are going through. And it is the government and the president that will show us that, yes, these are the plans and they will work. Being that Nigerians have trusted many governments before. These same promises have been made before, but some of them...
Exactly, because I'm imagining that this will be the argument that will be put forward by some people. Dr. Agoso, some will say that this administration came, it's not entirely a new administration per se. They are not reinventing the wheel because this is an APC government taking over from an APC government, right? So based on that, people will say, well, we should expect something, better from the previous administration, not worse.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, that should be the expectation. And but the truth of the matter is that I do not see any policy whatsoever in the policies of the outgone administration that this current administration should continue, even though they are from the same party. Because a lot went bad, in the past 8 years before this administration came in. So it has to be a moving away completely from a lot of those things that were done during the previous administration, and see how this can change. And I see indications in the Tinubu administration that things will be done differently. The first thing that I want to mention, and which is very, very important, is that in Tinubu we have a president who has his hands on the steering wheel. He appears to be in control, which was not the case with Buhari, it has to be said. Because severally, journalists will confront him with an issue, and he would say he did not know. But Doctor, it appears...
Wouldn't it be elusive to expect anything different? Some have made the argument that the same people that were under the previous administration are still in the same administration. I mean, maybe not all, but at least some good number of them, either from the legislative arm moved to the executive arm and so on.
Yeah, it's true that some of the people who were present in that previous administration are still present here. But the attitude, the body language, and the approach of the current president is what you would expect to a large extent, not 100%, maybe 60, 70%, that you would expect from a president who is handling a country that is under emergency. Because the truth of the matter is we are under emergency. Our economy, our security, our education, all the sectors in Nigeria are in emergency mood. That's the truth. We don't talk about it, especially people in government, but it's really in emergency mood. Now, this president, like he said in his speech, that he feels what the Nigerians feel and all that. I suppose it's the speech writers that put that in, but I want to believe too that he's been listening to the things that have been said. But he's present, and he's come up with a structure to monitor the performance of ministers, so they are not allowed to just do whatever they want to do and just get away with it. He's going to have his eyes on them.
Doctor, this is not the first time that we're having... Doctor, this unit has been there even from the previous administration, actually. So it's not a creation of the Tinubu administration.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that this current president is present. His situational awareness is a lot higher than the situational awareness of the previous President Buhari. And he has a good understanding of business and the way business works and the way administration works. So that is what is giving me hope. And I'm hoping that that will be continued. But if it doesn't continue like this, then of course all our hopes and expectations will be dashed. I hope that's not the case.
Well, we hope so, Dr. Bamai. All right, let's come back to the studio. Professor, two major things that shaped this economic hardship that Nigerians experienced in 2023 was the removal of fuel subsidy and the insecurity in the country, which we all agree that it went from a 50 to 150 in 2023, especially towards the ending. So how would you say that with all the promises that the president is making, with him saying, I'm keeping tabs on all my ministers, all the people I'm giving responsibility to, how would you say it's going to make Nigerians believe that the federal government, the necessary people, we're talking about the service chiefs, the Minister of Defense, are willing to deliver on that security issues, because it affects everything in the country?
Of course, it's very important to underline the importance of security. All these things we are discussing about refinery, the economy, education. If there is no security, you cannot achieve anything. And I expected a more robust pronouncement in this New Year speech from the president about security. What the president said actually is inadequate and did not meet the reality on ground. Is very much difficult, especially when what is happening in Plateau, what is happening in many parts of the country, southeast, south, northwest, northeast, every part of the country. Insecurity is slowing down the economy, the culture, the education, and what have you. So the president said he's going to keep tab of his appointees, which is actually expected. But also another important thing is whether they will be able to coordinate. One of the challenges we are having with government-appointed agencies, or heads of agencies, they work sometimes at cross purposes. You have the FCC having loggerhead with the Air Force, you have the SS sometimes clashing with the ICPC or EFCC, and these are security agencies, and it's reduce this trust and their effectiveness as well. So we hope to see that there is coordination in that activity, and we need to see the president expecting result or demanding result from these appointees, and when they are not performing, we expect them to go. It's not a situation where, like in the previous government, once you are appointed, it is expected you last till the end of the administration, except if you die.
Professor, I want to talk about, typical example of what's happening in the Lokoja Road. I mean, Nigerians are now echoing it as, we know that place is a kidnapper's den.
Yeah.
But then you keep hearing that kind of complaint and there is no action to it. And you start wondering, what is wrong? What do you think is happening?
Definitely. It's a worrying thing, and that the problems are known, the dark spots are known, and they keep recurring and recurring and recurring. I think it means that our institutions, either they have not learned lessons, because if you have learned lessons, you change behavior. We're expecting something to be done. And that is why, as I said in this speech, the president, he said the government is working to free abductors, to free kidnap people from abductors silently. I said, well, but security also sometimes should not be done silently. The right warnings should be sounded. Big actions need to be taken.
Why is that important to really make it public?
Yes, because the criminals have a psychology. If you don't make an impression, and that is why sometimes security people do what they call show of force. If you don't go and make an impression in state A and clear them in state A, they will say, okay, they are comfortable, and they will continue, and they may even expand. So you need to show them with examples, So when they are allowed, when you do it silently, the people will not feel that things are done. And the boldness with which the people that are breaking the law will be doing will continue. So you need to break their psychology, you need to act decisively, you need to act publicly, and what have you. So more needs to be done, both in terms of the security and in terms of saying it or showing it to the public. Not only just working silently.
Indeed. I have this, question for Dr. Bamai. Still on the security issues, one of the speech the president made is saying that he's going to ensure the constant food supply, security and affordability of food. And we saw how he called a state of emergency on the food. And they said there will be about a plan for 500,000 hectares of land, for it to be cultivated. But then it boils down again to the insecurity affecting the country, where a lot of farmers have been paying ransom to even go and farm and cultivate their food, where others even get killed in their farms, so people don't even feel secure. So when we're talking about the land, how do you think the president or the federal government in general would be able to create these farmlands, give the farmers without getting it secured? How do you think they'll be able to deliver that for us to move from where we have been, to a better position?
Well, that pronouncement by the president is very important, because the World Food Program has indicated that up to 18 million Nigerians are at risk of hunger this year, and 9 million of those are children. And if you have up to 9 million children that are not properly nourished, then it means that you have 9 million people, 9 million Nigerians that are not going to have a very good future, because good nourishment, helps build the brain very well, and it also strengthens their health. If you feed a child very well, it simply means that you are securing his future as far as his health is concerned, as far as his education and professional pursuits are concerned. So 9 million at risk of hunger is a very big number. And it comes back to your question. How will the government carry out these programs without security? Again, we do have security measures in place, but it's the execution. We will keep talking about execution. Nigeria has fantastic policies, fantastic programs on paper, but we do not execute them. The civil defense, for instance, they have what is called the Agri-Rangers program, where units of the civil defense are set aside, and they are armed, well-equipped, and well-trained to guard farmers, out in the fields, because that's what it has come down to in a lot of places where a lot of farming is done, but there is no security.
All right,
however, the program itself is not well executed, because you have issues with money, issues with vehicles, etc., and except we do that kind of thing and make sure we secure our farmers and they have a sense of security to really go back to the fields and farm, then this policy will not succeed.
Okay, Doctor, at the end of the day, no matter how good the strategy we have on paper, you need those who will execute those strategies on ground. And as it appears, and like some security experts have alluded, we do not have enough boots on the ground. And that's a point that have been made over and over. And we've seen how that has affected the response of our security officials on the field. So in the recent attack in Plateau State, we heard from the Chief of Defense Staff himself, who confessed and who confirmed that the troops were overwhelmed, that they received over 30 phone calls, distress calls for them to respond, and at some point they became overwhelmed while they are trying to respond to a particular location in a certain community. Another call comes in, and then they were overwhelmed. So how do we deal with the issue of the number of our security forces and bridge that gap?
That's the point I've been making. We have very good policies, but the execution is problematic. We do not put in enough people. We do not, those that are on the field, we don't give them sufficient equipment, and they are human beings. They would like to survive. Where the criminals have much more firepower than those who are supposed to secure the people. I mean, the security agents will look for a place and hide, which is what is really going on, or delay their response deliberately so that they don't go and get killed, because the criminals have much more firepower than them. We do not give them sufficient logistics with which to work, and so the policy is there, but it's not properly executed. That's why I said all the sectors in Nigeria are in emergency mode, and yet we're not acting like we're in an emergency. It's fire on the mountain, but nobody's running. You go to, say, NOA, for instance. They have a lot of good programs to educate Nigerians and change their orientation towards proper behavior and all that. But the financing is not there. It's the same thing with the security agency. The number of people that we need, they know it. The leaders have been approached and told we need the number of people like this, we need to recruit and all that. They will tell you there is no money, there is no money. But when it comes to their own money, those in the legislature, those in the executive, all their claims, all their remunerations, they prioritize that one, they get it fully. But when it comes to other things, they will tell you there's really no money. So we have to change our attitude and really get the people, train them, give them what to work with, so that we put them 1 or 2 steps ahead of the criminals, and that's the only way they can fight confidently. Otherwise, we will have this good policy about food security, but at the end of the day, we will not be able to carry it out because the farmers will not be able to get to the fields and farm. Otherwise, they will be kidnapped or they will be killed in the fields. So a lot has to be done deliberately, not just talking about it in a New Year's speech. But where is the money? Where's the recruitment going on? The facilities they need, the logistics they need to do the work. Where are these things?
Okay,
and those things are really not there. The criminals are better equipped, and our security agencies are running and hiding anytime the criminals come out. And they have to hide because they're human beings. They don't want to get killed because you can't fight somebody that is better equipped than you are.
Okay. All right, Prof, you want to comment on that. Where is the missing link? He talked about funding as a challenge, but as it appears now, looking at our budget in the past few years, security has always been at the very top. It takes almost, a large chunk of the budget. So where is the missing link?
Yeah. Actually, we need to look into, the devil is in the detail. What are we spending, even in the security budget, what are we spending money on? Are we spending money on actually what we need on the ground, or are we spending money on some grand projects? You know, you see the army opening universities. Is this a priority? Or buying, you are fighting insurgents, that are using light weapons, and you are buying some heavy, heavy equipment, aircraft, and buying, what have you. There are those small things that those people need on the ground. Right? Then secondly, also, another aspect of the security is I always mention it, is the incapacity of the police. All these things that the army is doing, the Navy, the Air Force are doing, they are police jobs. The police is so incapacitated, so demoralized, so ill-equipped that they cannot handle it, and that's why we are calling the army. We are calling these people to come. While these people, by law, they are designated for a specific purpose. Now the army is doing internal operations, largely doing the policing job. So we need to look at the quality. Then the intelligence section. Are we making use of their intelligence? What are their challenges? Those people that collect intelligence, the SS, the other people that collect intelligence about these criminals within the country. Then also, sometimes when you talk about security, you talk about the root causes of security. There are issues related to social, moral, what are we also doing on them? Drug abuse is a very important issue that is connected to insecurity.
How do we deal?
So you cannot say it's only NDLEA that will fight drug abuse. Family, the system, the culture, the traditions, what are we investing on to fight this?
How do we deal with the issue of conspirators and informants from within the system? We've had several stories about allegations rather about conspiring, abductors, for instance, or kidnappers conspiring with security officials, as a matter of fact. This testimony is from even people who were abducted at some point, and so on. How do we deal with that?
Yes, partly it has to be also do with the training of some of them. Then it also has to do with the morale. How much are they getting? How much do these people that are criminals, how much do they pay them? Then it also has to do with the quality of recruitment. Where do we get those people that we recruit into this? How do they get into these forces? Some of them pay to work in security agencies. And so when somebody pays some few millions to get it, what do you expect? He enters with a business mentality that this work, let me get what I can. If I cannot get from the coffers of that agency, I can get from any person who is, I'm ready to collude with anybody who can pay me.
In the speech of the president, he made mention of, better pay for the security agent, but until now,
he made mention of minimum wage, actually. Yes, but another challenge is that you can increase public sector pay, but you cannot control the economy. That's the problem. You need to go back to the macro economics. If you improve the economy for everybody, some of these things can take care of this. Okay, even crime will reduce.
So talking about economy, let's talk about some of the figures. Currently, we are talking about an exchange rate that is above 1,000 naira or so, thereabout, and it appears as if it has come to stay, because each time it keeps fluctuating, but then it always goes back, peak, and so on. In terms of boosting our foreign reserve, we've had issues of how corruption is, sabotaging government's effort. So, for instance, the president talks about how he has traveled to woo investors to come into the country. But then we've had stories of how some persons will make demands of foreign investors, making business very hard and very difficult in Nigeria. They will make certain demands that are not in line with the provisions of the laws and so on. How do we deal with that? And how important is the issue of boosting the foreign reserve to boost our economy?
Yeah, it's very vital. Some of the economic crises that we find ourselves is because we have depleted our reserve and we are earning less, and we are servicing very high level of debt. The little we earn, we have to service high level of debt, and unfortunately we are still collecting more debt for future generation. Coming back to the issue of corruption, we have said a lot about it, but what is needed is action. There are a lot of gaps missing. One issue is the issue of transparency. Those people that are making demands, right from, you can see from our airports, don't even take it to a higher level. You can see somebody who is working at the airport demanding for money from an investor who wants to come into the country to invest, or who is ready to bring in money to do business. And people are requesting off the table money from such people. So if we don't expose those people and we don't take the right action by sanctioning them, they will be emboldened. In fact, it will become a norm. Unfortunately, it has become a culture. So fighting such things need a lot of decisive action. It also needs transparency. It also needs the right action on the side of government. What do I mean by the right action? People have a lot of perception about the high cost of governance, or people that are in governance living in opulence. Somebody who is living in that kind of opulence cannot tell the person, does not have the moral energy to tell the person below that, look, you are living above your means, or you are collecting X, Y, Z from an investor. So we need to, break even, we need to open up.
Doctor, if you are there, how do we separate these issues? Because apparently it looks like they are tied together. The issue of the living standards of Nigerians and the issue of corruption. It's almost impossible to ask anyone not to compromise standards when they see that their living condition is in tatters, and here they are presented with an opportunity to make some money, even if it is illegal, So do you think that we have gotten the right approach in dealing with the issues of corruption? Where should we be focusing our energy?
Our approach is really not right. As long as the cost of living is very high, and you have to do virtually everything for yourself. If you want, for instance, if you want good education for your children, you have to take them to private schools, because government schools generally will not provide that quality of education, and it's expensive to do that. You want 24-hour electricity, or electricity when you need it. You have to provide a generator for yourself, because the public supply is not steady enough. You want water, you have to dig a borehole in your house to be able to get the water you need when you need it and how you need it. So those services that are supposed to be there to reduce the cost of living and raise the standard of living for the ordinary citizens, even those in the cities, it's really not there. And so if you occupy an office and you have the chance through corruption or embezzlement to make the money so you can afford to put your children in good quality schools to secure their future, afford to provide electricity for yourself the time you need it, afford water, afford hospital bills also. You have to go to private hospitals to get the quality healthcare that you need. And then, of course, you will be corrupt. So government has to do something about those areas of the lives of the people that the government is supposed to provide for them, provide the services for them. It might not be free, but let it be available, let it be affordable, and let it be steady. Then it will reduce the temptation, and then the government can then have the moral rights, like the professor was saying earlier on. It's very difficult for our leaders to come out. The moral right is not there because we see them. It's corruption is written all over them, and they live in corruption. That everybody knows. Now, how can they fight corruption? So it's a serious situation that we have here in the country. And as long as it persists, we're only going to talk about it. We know the problem. We know that corruption is one of our main problems in Nigeria. We will talk against it, but the action against it will not be taken as long as this kind of attitude continues.
Doctor, let's talk about businesses in Nigeria. Another highlight that the president made was, taking a closer look on the fiscal and tax reforms and policies reforms in order to make, Nigeria a conducive environment for businesses to thrive. And Nigerians, some of Nigerians who are business owners already complaining and lamenting that 2024 might bring in a bigger risk, a bigger challenge for their businesses due to the exchange rate and other issues, in the country. So how do you think that the government would be able to manage that and make this place at least a bit more conducive for business owners, considering the rate of unemployment and Nigerians are really, really thriving to at least have their own business?
Well, it takes us back to what we have been saying, really, about policy consistency. We could have the policy, but the execution will always be a problem. So we have to deal with these multiple taxes. You pay taxes at the federal level for the same business at the state level, sometimes even at local government level, sometimes at intra-agencies. From one agency to the other, you're expected to pay this and that for the same thing. It's so burdensome that a lot of people would just give up and decide not to do business. Apart from the multiple taxes itself, the issue of corruption, there's endemic corruption all through the chain, all through the process, from one office to the other, to the next office. You pay this, you pay that, you pay the other. It's very, 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 very discouraging. And then you have delays in issuance of the papers and documentation that you need. Since the papers are there, the processes are none. Where things are done properly, you apply and you get it virtually the same day. But here it will take you months. You go from one office, from one person to the other before you get it. As long as those things persist, people who are serious-minded about business will not do business in Nigeria. And those who do business in Nigeria, majority of businesses in Nigeria fold up before the fourth year. And we need these businesses so that we can have multiple streams of income for the country. And as long as the business environment is not conducive. So it's good to hear the president talk about policies that will affect business positively. My hope and my prayer, and it comes back to what we keep saying, whether it will be executed. The people who are given the responsibility of carrying out, will they do it the way it should be done? Will it be done properly? Or is it going to be a beautiful thing, a good thing, but then it's badly executed? So we have to. I hope the president will deal with these issues, and so that we move from we move beyond this.
Indeed.
Okay.
I have one question. Speaking on the business for Professor. Now, one of the key things the president kept repeating. He made that speech he made that sentence in this speech, and he did in the inaugural speech as well, where he said Nigeria is ready for for investors to come into the country. But let's not forget, even when these people come in, the expatriate, there's a lot of hurdles that they face. I mean, we saw how Korean business owner, I think contractors, were kidnapped and just released recently, and majority of the security issues, the effort that was put in place was from their country. We saw how all of this unravels. So do you think that Nigeria is ready for investors to come in? Because we seem to be losing a lot of investors.
Yeah, I won't say Nigeria is not ready. I would like them to come to Nigeria and do business. But we need to put a lot of things right. You know, you mentioned the issue of security. It's very important. We also mentioned the president also mentioned the issue of ease of doing business. This need to be deepened. This is not the first time we are hearing that, or these pronouncements are being made. When something, as Dr. Obama has said, something that would ordinarily take a few days to get approved and get papers, just paperwork. It will take ages here. Even Nigerians that want to export, let's say you want to export agricultural product, now that we are not exporting, if you see the paperwork that you will do, it will take you ages before you even start the process. So these things need to be looked at by the president. The president shouldn't rely on the formal channels to tackle these things. Let him use a lot of informal channels to hear what these people, business people, are going through, what these potential investors, what are they going through. So he needs to be proactive, not to, because those people that are responsible will not tell you that, look, within 2 days we'll process your visa. But there are many people seeking for visa to come to Nigeria, to invest in Nigeria, who take months abroad. They cannot get visa, for instance. Just simple thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that after so many years, we're still talking about what we should do.
We should do.
We've been talking about what we should do for as long as I remember. I can remember.
Yes.
For several years.
For several years. So it shouldn't be talk. It should be action.
Yes, and economists have pointed out over and over how it is important for Nigeria to boost its production and do more of exports, to be able to have a naira that is valuable, a naira that is strong, against the dollar. And to do that, to boost production, you need to manufacture. You need to sort out the issue of energy and power, which is one of the issues that the president also highlighted in his speech and all that. We seem to be in an energy crisis right now with the removal of the subsidy and the issue of power itself, for companies, for manufacturing and so on. Where should we be channeling our energy right now?
Well, our energy should be channeled to providing this major infrastructure that you mentioned, transportation, power, and others. Because without them, all these small businesses cannot leverage ICT, communication and what have you. We need investment, and we need them to be working. Then two, we need to also look inwards on our attitudes as Nigerians. It shouldn't be a president's only or the leaders only. Even the followers, we also need to look at our attitude. Then thirdly, we need to look at the little resources we have. We need to put it where we will get returns. I heard that the budget of National Assembly will be increased to so billion, and part of it is to create parks, car parks, and what have you. I said we are in an emergency situation. We are in this period. We need to look at the quality of our spending. For instance, we don't spend frivolously now that we are in an emergency situation. So all these things need to be tied up together. So we need to work not at cross purposes. When you are collecting, when you are half of your budget, you are servicing loan and you are collecting another loan, you shouldn't be spending money on car park.
On frivolities.
These are frivolities.
Dr. Agoso.
There are a lot of insecurity.
Dr. Agoso, how much have we done with, as regards the issue of providing power for manufacturers, to be able to produce in a way that they can compete? Because for a majority of manufacturers, they rely on diesel and petrol and so on. And at the end of the day, you see that has an impact on their cost of production, and they become unable to compete in terms of prices with, their global counterparts and so on. So what do we do to do? How much have we done, and what do we need to do, to deal with that issue so that our own local companies can thrive and compete favorably, and even Nigerians? What would be the role of Nigerians also?
Between 1999 and now, there has been a lot of activities in the power sector, but it's been lots of activities without movement. The power output in the country hasn't increased significantly, but we've thrown in huge sums of money without proper results. In 2018, the government went into an agreement with the German government, the Nigerian government, the Siemens power project. But along the way, it was abandoned. In the president's speech, he mentioned that he's had discussions with Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, and that project will come back online. I've studied it carefully. If it is executed, again, we come back to the issue of execution in Nigeria. Good policies, but bad execution. If it is actually carried out the way it is, it will help boost power generation. It will strengthen the grid itself, power transmission. And at the end of the day, the power output will be increased such that our industries will not have to rely anymore on generators and all that. Because if you operate generators for your production, the cost of production goes up. And that's why our products, the few products that we produce in Nigeria, are not competitive. Not even in the West African region, talk less of the rest of the world, because the power is very expensive in Nigeria. You have to generate it yourself to do it. You want to do bulk printing and the rest of it. You take it to Ghana and get it done in Ghana and transport it back to Nigeria. So the production and the transportation back to Nigeria to deliver your bulk printing is not up to half of what you would spend if you were to do it here in Nigeria. We're just not competitive because of this lack of power. Mm-hmm. So it's the issue of execution. The policies are there, the contracts are there, the agreements are there, but will they be properly executed? That's the question we have to ask. And then we have to hope that this time around it will be properly executed so that in the next 3-4 years' time, we will double our power generation and also double our power distribution. Sometimes we have the power, but the distribution system is not working properly to get it out there.
Okay, let's talk about the political landscape, Prof. We are coming out from a year that we witnessed, I would say, usher in a new administration, and the president in his speech, he has been re-echoing the same point about extending an invitation to those who participated and canvassed for the same seat with him to join him in building Nigeria as a country and so on. We've seen several court judgments, that some people feel aggrieved about. For many of the states, the court judgments are at the final stage. The Supreme Court, we've seen how the appeal court has given rulings, sometimes countering judgments given at the tribunal and so on and so forth. So at the same time, the president is extending this invitation to do that. In terms of our politics, what do you think that are the expectations going into the year 2024 and the role that the various stakeholders need to play to be able to reassure Nigerians on the fact that Nigeria's democracy is actually growing, and going in the direction that it should? Perhaps we can begin with the judiciary, for instance.
Well, actually, you look at the political arena, the role that the judiciary is playing actually is burdensome, and as the Chief Justice of the Federation have said, it is overwhelming the judiciary. In some cases, once election season come, some cases that they are supposed to adjudicate are even kept aside. The judges get so much overwhelmed because every person that contests election goes to court. So it boils down to, like, the court is also a decider in a democracy, whereas the court is supposed to work marginally, 1 or 2 cases, but it's becoming so burdensome, and it is even affecting the integrity of the judiciary itself. This goes back, of course, to the politicians or the way we play politics. I think we need to relook that. Of course, we can also exclude INEC. There has to be more reforms regarding the laws establishing INEC and how it operates. There has to be deepening the role of technology to improve transparency. Then post-election now, the election is over, whatever it is, we have a result, we have a leadership that is working, apart from few states, as you said, that are being challenged. We virtually have government in place. So we cannot develop when we are divided. Even if we play different political party and we come from different background, we need to work now as government. Let's take, for instance, the National Assembly. You may come from any other political party, but your major concern should be how Nigeria should move forward. What are the things that you will do? What are the laws or what are the policies that you will promote to ensure that the emergency situation we are and the crisis we are is reduced to a barest minimum and we go back to track of progress? So this is very important. So it's true, those opposition politicians, even if they cannot participate directly in the government, they should not create an obstacle for the government, because we are all now in it, whether you are in the opposition or not. If the government performs, we feel the better side. If it doesn't perform, all of us will feel it. So by this, naturally, we need to cooperate with the government. And we also need to give the correct advice that we need to give. Whatever plans that you intended to do that you couldn't execute, making it open. And the government should be magnanimous, should be open. Even if you don't appoint them, you should also listen to some of the brilliant ideas they may have.
It's always good to welcome criticism.
Yes.
Okay, Prof, let's talk about obstacles that you mentioned earlier. 2023 election came with a lot of division, in Nigeria, where every comment you see on social media has to be tribalistic, bigotry, and all that. And one thing we know is that Nigeria is more powerful, united. So how can we pass that situation, which we know that it was the politicians and the politics that caused that kind of division? How can we change that in 2024 in order for us at least to move forward for the country to be in a better place?
Yes, the fundamental thing is value reorientation. We need to change the way we are playing politics. We need to put service, we need to put ideology back to the front burner, not so ticket. There is a particular name of a particular ticket which the president was labeled, Not this. We need to put the qualities, or if you are from the voting end, what problem do you want solved? It is not who do you want to occupy office. And when you identify the problem, who is it capable to solve those problems? Then you vote somebody on that basis, not on the basis of I'm giving rice, I'm giving sugar, I'm giving detergent, or I'm giving money.
Do you think
so from the voters' end? We will, with the right determination, from the voters' end. Then from the politicians' end too,
yes.
They need to stop dangling money, they need to stop dangling emotions, they need to stop dangling primordial sentiments to us. I am from this ethnic group, we own the state, we own the local government, we own this world, you must vote for me. So once the two do the right thing, those from the voting end and those from the voter end, I think we'll begin to see progress. So we need to be a bit objective, ideological.
All right. I would like for Dr. Agoso to also speak to this issue of polarization and division in our political landscape. How do Nigerians move away from that? How do we move forward after all that we've seen in 2023 general elections?
The attitude we have seen in the 2023 general elections, and we've also seen this attitude in all the previous elections, is the attitude of do or die, so that political contest has become a do or die affair. It's either us, we win, or we destroy the system. You see it in the attitude of the political parties, starting right from the primaries to the general election itself, and then leading to the litigations, the multitudes of litigations that follow announcements of results. And at the end of the day, virtually, the judiciary that is deciding for us who will lead us. It's an abnormality that is coming from the fact that we do not play fairly. We do not accept results in Nigeria. It has to be us or nobody else. That attitude has to change. People should understand that the leadership is service. You are coming to render service.
But for people to accept results, they have to be able to see how transparent the process is, isn't it? They have to be able to see that justice was actually done and that it was fair to everybody. Should be able to see fairness in the whole process, isn't it?
That's right, and it goes back to what I said earlier. It's our attitude, So you have politicians influencing INEC, trying to get INEC to play to their music, trying to influence the security agencies that are out there to provide security for the elections, trying to influence everything. So if you talk with INEC officials, they will tell you that they got this offer from this party. Almost virtually all the parties are involved in trying to control. So it's a matter of giving the results to the highest bidder, because virtually all the parties are bidders. So at the end of the day, the result you get is influenced more by money than by policies, than by principles, and then by capacity to deliver. Like the professor said earlier on, these are things that you look at. As I was saying, leadership is you render service in leadership. I mean, you are expected to have your own business, you have your own life that you can fall back to easily if you do not win elections. You come into public service to serve. It's a service, but here we don't see it as a service. We must have it so we can control power and control resources.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Agoso Bamayi, a development strategist and social entrepreneur. We appreciate you and thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives with us.